Hello YouTube friends, Sanxion here, and today I'm going to show you how I use EQ matching to get a closer sound if I'm trying to recreate something. In my day-to-day life I'm often asked to recreate tracks or part of tracks when I'm not making my own music. So I'm going to show you two examples of how this works. So here we go. The first one, I'm going to play the part from the original song. I'm sure you know what this is, but here we go. So there we go. Say we want to recreate that, but without all the spacey sound effects and stuff over it. First thing we need to do is actually play the notes. And in this case, if we listen to this sound again, there's actually two portions to that. There's the chords, which are a saw wave kind of chord, and the top line, which is more like a square wave kind of sound. So what I've done over here is I've created those in MIDI, and for the chords, I'm using RetroLog, which is built into Cubase, and it's just two saw waves, one playing an octave higher than the other. There's a tiny little bit of detune on one of them, just to spread it out a little bit, and the chords go like this. And then the top line is more like a square wave kind of thing. So in silent, I've got one oscillator playing a square wave, and that's literally it. None of these are doing actually anything. That resonance may have been doing a slight amount of stuff there, but it's just a sustained square wave. There's a little bit of EQ on it as well, nothing too exciting, but boosting the top end basically. And the top line on its own sounds like this. And when we play those together, it's already fairly close. And if you weren't A-B'ing them together, you would think, well, we're done. But we'll go back to the original sample. It does sound very different. So we're going to use EQ matching to help us get this closer to this. And the tool that I use is another built-in plugin for Cubase. It's called Curve. So we'll add that as an insert on here. And the first thing we need to do, before we do anything actually, I forgot. Let's take that effect off and look at the analyzer on this sample. As you can see, there's quite a lot of bottom end there that we're definitely not going to need. So let's roll that off. And we could probably get away with running quite a lot of those, gone up to about 300 Hz. And once we've done that, let's bounce that down. So I'm going to render in place. And my render settings on this are to do whatever the channel's doing. So it will render out the EQ we've just done as well. So now this is our new version. As you can see, the analyzer, we don't have a lot of bottom end information. So now we put on our CurveEQ. And the first thing we need to do once it's loaded up is set it to static and match, but also set the mode to average. And you'll be able to see what this does as we hit play. But basically, plays through the sample and builds up a profile over time of what the EQ is doing. So let's let that run. And we'll probably let it run through 2 or 3 times till it stops moving about. But again, you'll see what happens as we hit play. I think that's enough. So if we hit static and match here, and we're going to do a take. And we'll call this Android, because that is what that is. And we're going to save that. So I'm just going to save that to my documents. It's called Android, so I know what it is. Now, we're going to go to our recreation. I've already put these to a group. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to put curve as an insert. We're going to make sure it's on static and match. We're going to make sure it's on average. And again, we're going to play through a couple of times and let it build up a profile. And that's probably enough. So hit static and match, create a take there, and we'll call this Android Remake. And we don't need to save that, because what we're going to do is load in our original one there. So we've got the original one from our original sample, we've got the take from our remake, and what we're going to do is we're going to say the original one is our reference, and the remake is the one we want to apply to. So we'll set those two settings there, and we'll hit match. And then we'll go back and see what it's done. Now, this is obviously nonsense, right? So use your brain a little bit and realise we probably don't need those. But before we do that, let's A/B them again. So here's our original sample. And now here's our remake. It already sounds closer, right? So we'll get rid of these points here. You can double click on the blobs and it'll actually get rid of them. So we'll get rid of the stuff we don't need. We'll probably tweak that a little bit. So let's A/B again. And it's not exact, but it's closer than what we did have. If you listen to what we did have, and now what we do have, I'm sure you can agree that is a little bit closer. And we could get in there and use our ears and tweak it a little bit more. I think maybe the top's a little bit harsh. So let's get our CurveEQ up again. We'll maybe bring this down a touch. I feel like maybe it's pushed that a little bit too far. And maybe there as well. Again, it's not perfect, but it's helped us in getting this recreation to sound closer to this sample. And we could sit there for another sort of 10 minutes and tweak around and get it even better. Maybe mess around with bit rates to make it a bit more crunchy like the original sample is. But, you know, that's how that works. The next example I'm going to show you is an old Italian piano house track. And I really like the piano line out of this. So we'll just listen to that on its own first. So again, first things first, we need to recreate that. And experience and our ears tell us that that's probably an M1 piano. So we're using the Korg M1 plugin here. And just the patch called Piano L&R, which is their standard kind of rave piano. And I've just set it down the middle. By default, these are all panned left and right. So it plays the low notes slightly to the left and the high notes slightly to the right. But for this, the purposes of this video, they're all panned down the middle. So here's the MIDI for that I've recreated. It may not be totally exact, but I think I've got it fairly close. But as you can hear, tone is very, very different. So the first thing, I've actually done this already, but I've tried to match roughly what the reverb on the sample is doing with this Arts acoustic reverb. It's quite a long one. There's not a lot of bottom end going on, but it's quite a wet reverb mix. And to my ears, that's not far off. But like I said, the tone's very wrong. So we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did with Android. We're going to load up a curve as an insert on the piano. Make sure it's on static, make sure it's on average, and hit play and let it build the profile. Again, you'll notice I forgot to do a bit of EQing to get rid of that bottom end that we don't need. So let's turn the curve off. We don't need that. So let's go for quite a harsh cut. And what we'll do, we'll roll it off until we start to hear a difference and then go backwards. So there you really start to hear it. So let's back that off quite a lot now. I would say there's about right. We're just slightly cutting off the a little bit of bass from those bass notes, but not too much that it's distracting. So let us render that out using the same settings as before. So now we have a copy that has our EQ. And now we'll put our curve on and do the average profile stuff. So static and match, average, hit play, let it do its thing. That's close enough for now. In reality, we will probably leave that a little bit longer. But we'll do a take. We'll give it a name. And we will save it. There. And then we will go to our recreated M1 piano MIDI. Go to our inserts. We've already rolled off the bottom there. And let's put it after the reverb. Because we try to match the reverb by ear, we want to match our EQ after the reverb. It hopefully will work. We'll set this to average and let it do its thing. That'll do. So static and match, do a take. We will load in our original piano sample take. That's our reference, that's what we want to apply to match. So now we can see what it's done. Again, we're going to use our brains and think we don't want all this bottom end boosting. Seems a little bit pointless. But without any tweaking, let's see how close we've got. Already much closer. And ours sounds a little bit less fluffy than the sample, but there's many reasons for that. It's recorded off vinyl. There's probably some compression on there that we haven't got going on. But tone-wise, I think we're pretty close. And that, my friends, is how I use EQ matching when I'm tasked with recreating something that has a really specific sound. We could sit there and EQ that manually ourselves, but we got a tool that will help us along the way. And the good thing about this is it's got all these points we can really get in there and tweak. If we don't like how much it's boosted that top end, we just bring some of those down or remove some of those points until we get a sound that we do like. But there you go, that's how that works. If you like the video, do the liking, subscribing stuff, YouTube kind of business. And until next time, I'll see you.